Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's Purple People podcast. This week, there's only the two of us. Me and Mr. Smith are here. Kyle West is on assignment.
I like that. We're going to dime you out, Kyle West. Kyle West said he has friends, and me and Adam said, besides us?
I know that guy, right? He's out. I'm just going to assume he's in a big ocean full of women having a great time.
He's cheating on us, and I'm really upset tonight. But you know what? You get a pass, sir.
But more importantly, he's cheating on the Vikings.
Ooh.
That's just not right. But Mr. West did have an opportunity to name this week's episode. It is episode number 240, titled "Oh Captain, My Captain." And we will be talking about Captain soon. Actually, let's talk about him right now. What do you think?
Let's do it, man. I love that guy. He's been a great player for the team the last couple of years.
We only have 5 quick hits down, and 2 of them are about Captain. But let's get rolling. Captain Munnerlyn revealed in an interview that he played part of last season with a high ankle sprain and was supposed to miss 4 weeks, but fought through the injury and played. And honestly, when he was in the game, you could tell that there was a major difference. And even though he was fighting through the injury, he played at a high level. And honestly, I wouldn't have known if not for this statement.
Absolutely. And you know, the thing that if you're hurt, you're hurt. You know, I understand and respect it, because one of the things I learned as a fan over the years is I used to get mad when guys were constantly injured, but this is a physical sport. But when you grind it out, and the thing that he said with the Paul Allen interview, which thank you for giving me the link to that, was he's like, you know, when I see a guy like Harrison Smith out there and how tough he is, I have to do that. And that motivation and that constant competition is infectious. So the fact that he was injured, but he still wanted to play, and he did play pretty well this year. It just speaks to him for his character and his want to be good.
I think football fans get caught up in thinking that all these players are 100% every week, and that's definitely not the case. I mean, the grind that these guys put on their body is incredible, and the things they have to play through that might not even make an injury report are pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I only played a couple of sports growing up, but I can't imagine, you know, they play 16 weeks, they have 1 week off in there at some point, and then you start to think about, he played 4 weeks in a row with something. Can you imagine, like, those short weeks that we always hear about players complaining about? I just want to take days off after I had wrestling tournaments and I'd practice the next day.
Right?
And these guys are taking brutal hits, just trying to light each other up, and they're just, you know, it's crazy to think about. But speaking of, I'll steal the next one from you. I really want to talk about this guy, because I think he's such a pivotal part of what we do. And I think if you had to give somebody an underrated title on the defense, because you have an Xavier Rhodes, you have a Harrison Smith, it's Captain Munnerlyn. He's set to be a free agent. He could cash in big this offseason, which I expect him to do regardless of where he is. But he expressed a lot of interest, and like we said with the interview with Paul Allen, about returning, and he feels comfortable here. He mentioned his family. He said he's gotten to know the city. He said he loves his teammates. All in all, it's a business, and I understand if he wants to take the money, because these guys' careers, he shouldn't have lasted this long based on the player average alone. So he's doing better than what an average player does, but not going to be mad if he goes somewhere else. Definitely going to miss him if he leaves, but I don't know how you felt, Adam, but I felt like it was genuine that he actually wants to stay here. I think he believes in the defense and the team.
Well, the deal that the Vikings got when he came to Minnesota was a steal. It was an absolute steal. At that point, the nickel corners weren't really appreciated the way they are now. I mean, it was starting, but it hadn't gotten to the point where the value was totally there. And now he knows that. I mean, there are big deals coming all over the place, and the Vikings are preparing for this kind of situation. They did so by drafting Mackenzie Alexander, who isn't quite ready, in my opinion, yet. But I am a big fan of his, and I do have high hopes for him. But Captain could be in for a real nice payday. Be really interesting to see. Yep, it was 3 years, $14 million, which is a bargain for a cornerback of his experience and his caliber.
And that's the thing that stuck out to me the most in this interview, and I highly suggest that you guys go watch it if you have what I think it was like 16 minutes. If you get in the car going to work, just pop it on and listen. But it's I hear a lot of things in football, and correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes they exaggerate a little bit. I don't like the same verbiage that gets thrown around, adversity and overcoming things. I get it because it's very, very intense and emotional. But man, this guy was just like, it's kind of like when a team drafts a quarterback and you have an established quarterback. One year he gets here, he doesn't buy into Mike Zimmer's system. They draft Trey Waynes. He gives into the system. He gets better. They draft Mackenzie Alexander, and he just keeps on going. And they're trying to find a replacement for him. Maybe not now, but soon. And he's played at a great level. So I feel for him, especially with how many people they keep adding in his position. But he understands it, and he's totally a team guy, and that's why I respect the hell out of him because he says what he's supposed to say. He doesn't cause any drama. Paul Allen tried to bait him with an Adrian Peterson question, and he didn't take it. So it was pretty funny. But all around, I hope we keep this guy around. He's been a good player.
We had some good conversation going in the chat here. Tyler popped in to say that he loves the show and to keep up the good work, and we will do that, Tyler. On the other hand, we have Eric in here, who is not as high on Captain Munnerlyn as we are. He thinks that the team will likely give him the same kind of contract as before, which that would kind of surprise me. But he says that he wouldn't mind to move on from Captain because of his size.
That's fair. The only thing I could tell you, and Adam's way more knowledgeable about football and stuff like that, but for the nickel slot, you don't really need a bigger corner. And that's the whole point of being a nickel corner. And I totally get it. When you think about small corners that we used to have that used to get burned, like I wouldn't want Captain lining up most of the time. I would say even half the time on the outside, like Josh Robinson we used to have. I love the guy. He had a fighting spirit, but man, his size just was his biggest kryptonite. Same thing with Captain, but he's not playing the outside most of the time. So he's going over the middle. He's covering those slot receivers. So that's what he specializes in. And I know I laughed when he said, I'm the best nickel corner in the game. Like, don't you want to be the best corner in the game? But that's what he's good at, and you can't blame him for that.
Eric's point about his size is a good one because a lot of times nickel corners are assigned to go up against tight ends. And in today's NFL, tight ends are just getting more freakishly athletic and tall and
huge.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So a lot of these corners that, the 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2" corners that are playing the outside are now transitioning to the inside. And those guys have to cover the big tight ends. It can be one heck of a task.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine him going up against a guy like Travis Kelce or Gronk, but covering, those short, shifty guys, and those 10-yard dumps or those screens and stuff like that, I'm okay with him because he does a great job. But yeah, like you said, covering huge guys, I totally see his point for, being worried about it. I think we're getting the pieces together, but I take what we're saying, we'll get to the next quick hit. Sorry, guys. But, when you think about drafting a quarterback now, the reason that a lot of them don't succeed is because you get thrust right in. And I think we're doing what we're supposed to do. I think Zimmer knows what he's doing with corners like Waynes and Alexander, because if you got a guy like Captain Munnerlyn in there, you can show them the ropes and they can kind of ease in. Maybe they can, refine their technique and learn from that guy in there. So just a little back to what we were talking about. But I digress. We will get off the Captain Munnerlyn train and power.
You just said exactly what Tyler just said in the chat.
Did I?
Yep.
I'm not looking at the chat, so it makes me feel better.
So that works out pretty well. If you are listening to this show live or on the 21st, whichever it is, you could actually have gone to Randall's Restaurant and Bar in Minneapolis. It opened today. There are statues and artwork for John Randall everywhere in the place. It's a 4-story restaurant and bar, and it's supposed to be kicking all the time on game day. Randall himself makes appearances there once in a while. I believe he was there for the opening day. This is a place where Vikings fans may want to make sure to visit when they come to Minnesota because it's John Randall. Who can't love John Randall?
What a legend. That would definitely be on my stop whenever I visit US Bank Stadium sometime in the future, whenever that is. That'll definitely be one of my places of interest to have a drink and have a good bite to eat.
Yeah, it could be a lot of fun. I was really excited to see this because I don't think living in Michigan, there are some bars around here that do football. And the bad part is in the UP, it's half Green Bay, half Detroit. So us Minnesota fans, we're kind of left out in the cold. So there's part of me that just wants to pick up and move to Minnesota so I can be a part of that awesome Minnesota sports bar feel, to just have something like they had on How I Met Your Mother with that Minnesota Vikings bar. That'd be amazing.
You know, I only visited there twice when I was married before, but it was just great to see because, as most of you guys know, if you listen to the show, that I've been on it for a while. I'm from North Carolina, so I live in Panther Country right outside of Charlotte near their stadium. And it's just cool driving by, seeing those old neon signs with Vikings lit up. They even have – some of them have the custom logo, you know, and it was just so cool to be a part of it. And now that they've got that immaculate stadium, I couldn't imagine living there. I would spend a lot of time watching those games or trying to get into the stadium and see that. I don't blame you if you want to pack up and move.
No, it's definitely tempting. I'll tell you that. Up next, we have Everson Griffin at a Timberwolves game, and the video we posted up to our Facebook page. This guy has so much excitement and energy. It's so infectious. When I believe it was Wiggins got the ball with time running out, and it was a long pass down the court, and he sunk a shot just right inside the three-point line. And the whole place got excited, but I don't think anyone was more excited than Everson.
I'm going to miss this guy so much for all the pressure that he puts on quarterbacks, and he has a cool dance. But if you just get to watch him be himself, you cannot help but smile at how goofy he is, and I love it. And that was – I think he's the only person in there that would get away with that because they were talking about it. I think it might have been Paul Allen, but he's talking about how goofy he's dressed. And then you look and see, well, he's kind of swole. Who is that? And it was like, oh, God, that's Everson. Yeah, it was Captain Munnerlyn. He said he thought it was Pharrell with one of those goofy hats, which was awesome.
Like Eric said in the chat, he ran on the court and he was just excited.
And there's nothing more than – you know what I love, too, about that is that they love the Minnesota sports as well, and they support each other. Like, I always see Cordero at the Wild games. I saw Kyle Rudolph there the other day at a Wild game.
Oh, yeah.
Now they're supporting the NBA team, which isn't half bad. They have some superstars on their team, too. So
no, a lot of up-and-comers there on the Timberwolves.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The future is looking pretty good. The next one was one that you dug up, if you want to take this one.
I do, because this one kind of hit home for me. So I'll tell you guys, out of a bias of the last couple of years that we've had for people that we drafted, probably my favorite was Teddy Bridgewater. I loved his attitude and everything, but I think the most bang for your buck since we've drafted Harrison Smith and after was Xavier Rhodes and the way he's developed. And I loved watching how raw he was when he came in. You know, he had those troubles catching interceptions, and he definitely worked on that and fixed it this year. But as we talk about and we name drop some places, Pro Football Focus named Xavier Rhodes the best corner in defending post and corner routes. Now, what they did in this article in the short and sweet is they would tell you the best corner and a number 2 and an honorable mention in different routes. And each route had a different A and a different B. But the best corner in defending the post and corner routes was Xavier Rhodes, and the honorable mention below him was Richard Sherman, if that tells you what kind of company he was in. And it was incredible. The post and corner routes, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but these are the deeper routes, and it was a nightmare for people to throw in Xavier's direction. Now, I know the big pick six he had wasn't a deep route, but it was one of those defending posts. But basically, if you're going to try to throw the long ball, and Xavier's gotten so good at adjusting his hips and, you know, keeping up with people, he's most likely going to break it up, if not pick it off. And, you know, he was recognized this year for that. And like I said, in Pro Football Focus, if you guys want to check it out, I pretty much copied the article, you know, verbatim, and I put it on the podcast page a couple of days ago.
Yeah, these two routes are very similar. Both of them, the receiver starts running out, and then they take a diagonal line over to the sideline to kind of open themselves up just that little bit. A lot of the time it's used for a timing route. Other times it's to break a zone or to break off a man. And one thing that is really apparent when watching Xavier Rhodes do this is that he will not allow these passes to come if he can cut in between the player and the ball. And his instincts have gotten so good that, what was it? He intercepted more catches than he allowed on those plays?
Absolutely. It's insane. And I think, which is weird because we talked about how good he was. He was great in like clutch situations. And then he would just, I think that's the biggest knock of him this year was the inconsistency. Because when we played Jacksonville, he didn't have a really good game, and that's where one of his big gains came from, was against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not saying they don't have some decent players, but you don't think of Jacksonville being elite. But I think that was his biggest, the biggest play against him as far as these routes. When I read that was against Jacksonville, he gave up like a 16 or 17 yard, play, which is still not much. But everything else that happened, he either broke up or intercepted, and it's absolutely incredible. And in my personal opinion, I still don't think this guy's hit his ceiling yet. I think, honestly, when it's all said and done, he can claim 1 year, like, not just in the corner and the post routes or anything like that. I think he will go down at least for one season as the best corner in the NFL, because Mike Zimmer just has finally broken in and made him who we all thought he could be.
Well, let's break this down for a second, too, because the Vikings have him right now, if it were to play through, on the 5th-year deal of his contract. And Minnesota will not want him to play that.
Right.
They're going to want to lock him down to a long-term deal now before he gets another year of experience in there and he gets to be even more expensive. They're going to want him locked down as soon as possible. They don't want even the opportunity of him hitting free agency next year. They need to keep building around him. As Tyler said in the chat, the Vikings defense was crazy good. We relied on it too much. Eric says that there were no Adeles allowed, junior or senior. But there aren't really enough positive things you can say about the development of Xavier Rhodes. When he came in, it was so handsy. He had instincts, but he was too physical and just struggled so much. It was amazing to watch some of the things he could do. Tommy Gunn joined us in the chat here and said that opposing offenses would keep us in base defense so we couldn't have the blitz packages like we did in the first 5 games, and that is pretty accurate.
You know what's crazy, too, now that I think about it? When you're talking about being handsy and he's a little too physical, we have a guy on the roster that's going to take eventually Terrence Newman or Captain Munnerlyn's spot in Trey Waynes, and he has a lot of the same attributes. He's not as big and as strong and as big physically as Xavier, but he reminds me a lot of Xavier.
And we've seen some of the same kind of development, too.
You have, and it's taken like kind of the same timeline, and it sucks. You want every player, especially first-round picks, you just want them to go in and immediately just be successful. And sometimes it doesn't happen. He slowly started out. He made a clutch play in the playoff game. Last year he made a clutch play in the Green Bay game, and he played a lot more snaps. And it's kind of the same thing you hope translate to a guy like Laquan Treadwell. Maybe not the year we thought he was going to have as a rookie, but maybe over time, because this is how football used to be. It's like I said with quarterbacks earlier. Guys didn't come to the team as a rookie and start. You sat on the bench. Look at Aaron Rodgers. He sat behind Brett Favre, 3 years? And he's the best quarterback in football now. Give him time to develop, and if you have a good coach who can, especially a cornerback coach like Mike Zimmer, you never know what will happen. But I could talk about Xavier Rhodes all day, and I'm just really happy that he's playing on the par, but that dude's going to get paid. You can take that to the bank.
We got 2 more quick comments in here from Eric, both of which are pretty interesting. He says that legend says Carson Palmer is still chasing number 29 on that 100-yard pick six.
Oh, that's incredible.
And he also made a good point that he thinks Zimmer wants the young corners to be a little grabby. And a little grabby, yeah. He wants to be able to control them at the line of scrimmage, get a hand on them, and be able to control the path. Of course, yeah, there is some physicality that you want. The problem is that when both Waynes and Rhodes came in, they were still playing college football, because the transition from cornerback from college to pro makes it almost a completely different game.
That's 100%. And I think Zimmer, as long as you keep it within, I think if it's maybe 1 or 2 corners get a penalty a game, I don't think he's going to lose sleep over that. It's when you have a game like he did in Jacksonville where he has like 3 in a row and he just pretty much marches their offense down the field for free. Don't make him earn these plays. You just give it to him. That's when he gets upset. But I totally agree with that. I think Zimmer's okay with you being physical, because why not? And it's just like wide receiver. You have to be confident. You always hear about corners saying, oh, I'm the best in the game. And that's, when you have that attitude and you play like that, of course you're going to be physical. I think he's all right with it.
Yeah, a little bit of physical and aggression, some smash mouth football. That is what Zimmer likes. So let's move on to the social media question of the week. As you guys know, we've been doing our In or Out series. Last week we talked about Sam Bradford, and boy, that conversation got heated in the comments. this week we went a little lighter. We went with Kai Forbath. And honestly, this was one that could go either way, but we went and asked you guys on the Facebook page. I don't have Twitter. Sorry, guys. I never check the podcast Twitter. That is up to the Kyles. So I will read off the podcast page social media question answers about whether or not Kai Forbath should stay or go. Stefan Kornberger says, I don't know much about the kicker market, but I think most of the better kickers are under contract and not filling up shelves at Walmart. This guy filled in and got the job done. He was nothing exciting, but also not underwhelming, which is good. Should give him a try. We have bigger needs than gambling on the kicker spot again. Paul Gruber says Kai did an admirable job filling in after Walsh was released. His distance on kickoffs needs to be longer. Even so, he should be brought back to training camp to compete. And that seemed to be the theme with a lot of these answers, is that Kai Forbath shouldn't be allowed to walk. They should try to bring him back and maybe bring in another kicker, maybe a draft pick or an undrafted free agent. Hunter Christensen says he showed consistency, but it wouldn't be a terrible idea to bring in another kicker for competition. Stephen Osborne says, I would draft a kicker in the 7th round, but also bring him back. Thomas Bush says, as a camp body, but try to get a guy in the draft. Cody Wade says, yes, but he needs competition. He missed a couple extra points. And finally, Dave Ordenson says, trade next year's first-round pick and get Blair Walsh back. Sorry, I thought it was April Fool's Day.
You said David Ordenson?
Yep.
That's my buddy. He's too goofy. That was good, man.
That was a fun answer.
I think we all agree, given the circumstances, you thought Blair Walsh had pressure on you. Could you imagine if that guy came in here and started missing field goals? They would call for his head in less than 2 weeks, I promise. I think he did a great job, but the theme here, and I won't beat a dead horse, is let's get more touchbacks. You know what I mean? I don't want the guys to get that chance to run it back, especially if you have another Cordero Patterson on another team. Excuse me, but I think he did fine. And extra points, yeah, those concern me, but not as much as missing field goals. And did he miss a field goal this year?
If he did, I don't remember it.
I don't think he missed a field goal. I think it was 2 extra points. So kudos to him for just pretty much getting picked up off the street and knowing that, hey, I have to come in here and perform. So I want him back, but I'm going to go with the general theme here. If we take a kicker in the 6th or 7th round, I'm not going to be upset.
In the comments here, we have a lot of people saying stay, which is pretty understandable. Eric reminded us of all the people on Facebook that took to live video to kick 29, 30-yard field goals and say they'd kick for the Vikings. Tommy Gunn says that Grammatica tried to jump up and say he's available, but tore his ACL.
Ooh.
Ouch. That's dark, man. That's a little dark. But I'm actually going to firmly say stay and not even bring in competition because I liked what he did this year. Yes, he missed a couple extra points, but I think every kicker in the NFL missed an extra point this year.
It was the worst year ever for missed extra points.
And I also don't have a big problem with the distance on kickoffs. Ever since they moved the mark out to the 25 for a touchback, being able to boom it through the back of the end zone isn't quite as important as it once was. That's
fair. That slipped my mind a little bit. I forgot that it goes to the 25 instead of the 20 now, and that does make a difference. Whether you think it's significant or not, that does make a difference. Yeah, and I didn't realize that. I can't believe that slipped my mind.
So that's the only reason why I am firmly in the keep him here camp. I mean, if one of the top talents, if there's a guy that's coming out in the combine who just puts on one heck of a performance, kicking footballs with great accuracy and distance, I'm not saying to, take a 2nd round draft pick like the Buccaneers did or anything like that. I'm just saying that if a talent drops, Spielman's going to be interested.
I agree. And like I said earlier, if it's a late round pick, go for it. Don't pull a Tampa Bay and draft a kicker in the 2nd round. I think that's a terrible idea, but that's not our team's problem now. But I had no problem, like I said, with the pressure that guy had put on him, especially with Blair struggling and getting booted out midseason. I think he did fine.
Yeah, I had no issues with it at all. Since I made the decision last week, I'm going to let you make the call this week. Next week, do you want to talk about Sean Hill or Matt Khalil?
You know, it would be easier to go with Matt Khalil, and I think it's probably going to generate a little bit more talk. But let's go with Sean Hill. I want to see if there's any Sean Hill advocates out there because he did win us a game, and there was a lot of controversy coming into that game because of what happened with Teddy and bringing Bradford in. So he didn't do bad. And if you look at Tennessee, they were kicking our ass the first half of that game. So, and they weren't a bad team this year. Make no mistake about it. That's an up-and-coming team for sure because they've got a lot of good pieces now that they've got a quarterback. But he did, despite his age, win us a game. So I'm going to stick with Sean Hill.
Sounds good. So watch our Facebook page and our Twitter. We're going to be posting up about Sean Hill, whether or not he should stay or go for the Vikings this season.
Should I stay or should I go?
We shipped out the prizes for the Purple People Podcast Survival League. I believe the runner-up received his prize today. And, of course, the winner, who lives in England, the package has landed overseas, and it is en route to his destination, so hopefully he'll get his prize very, very soon. And as we're recording this, it is his birthday. So
Happy
that
birthday,
is
man.
pretty darn cool.
I think it's really cool, like not to toot our own horn here, but Adam's the ringleader. You know, he's the one who helps out with the Survival League and stuff. I get to sit back and watch. I might even participate next year. Don't worry, you guys don't have to perceive me as a threat because I promise you I'll be eliminated first or second. But, yeah, it's just really cool for the friendships that you make here, and I enjoy this kind of stuff. I enjoy seeing people who came back, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the second year in a row he's won, so
yeah,
you can win some cool Viking stuff.
He's building a dynasty here. We got to watch out for him.
Yeah, we can't let him have a three-peat for sure.
No, definitely not. But as I've said, and I'm going to keep saying it every week that we mention the Survival League, we are making the change next year to 2 strikes because it got a little too hairy. We got a little too close to too many people winning, and I'm a generous guy. I don't mind chipping out some prizes. Heck, I don't even mind sending out a runner-up prize. But wow, there were just too many awesome players in the Survival League. So we're taking a strike away. We're going to make it a little more competitive and make those strikes even more valuable.
I like it.
So that's all I have for this week. Do you have...
Let's go on a rant this week, guys.
Ooh, I like it.
I want to make this known and clear because when, and I say when, not if, when number 28 all day is off of the squad this year, I don't want people to think that I just absolutely hated his guts. When I talk about Adrian Peterson, I think about Hall of Fame. I think of old school running and dynamic play, and I wish him the absolute best. And make no mistake about it, I haven't forgotten that if he wasn't on this team the last 10 years, there's a solid chance we didn't make the playoffs, minus the year we had Brett Favre. I highly doubt we made it 2 years ago. I guarantee you we didn't make it in 2012 with Christian Ponder leading the way. I love the guy. I love the way he runs. Put all the shenanigans aside, he did something great for this team for a very long time at a very high level. Adrian's going to – if we don't absolutely cut him outright, because I don't know that the management want to absolutely cut him, but March 9th starts the new season. So hear me out, guys. Hear me out, everyone, for the Purple People podcast that's listening. Adrian is due, I think, $18 million, $6 million bonus. For what? For being injured. I can't give that to you, man. And I know that's part of the game. So I don't think they're going to keep him around for that. I think they should let him test the free market. And I'll tell you why. I think he's going to realize that not many teams want him because of his age and his price tag. And it's going to be a little insulting to his ego. He thinks very highly of himself. And, hey, kudos to you, man. You got to have confidence to play. He's not that old. I don't think his career is done. But he's never been a split back guy. He's been the featured back in this system. He's going to have to sit back, and he's going to have to say, okay, I'm only going to get 10 to 13 carries this game and maybe 12 next week. I think that would improve his longevity, and I think he could win a championship with a really good team that will allow him to do that. But Adrian Peterson's not worth the price tag that he demands. The next highest paid running back in the NFL is LaShawn McCoy. It's between $7 and $8 million. And I'll tell you straight up right now, in my opinion, and this is my bold statement of the week, I think at best Adrian Peterson is the 5th best running back in football now. Zeke Elliott, Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, and Sean McCoy. Maybe Adrian's there at 5, but I think these guys, and it's just because of Father Time. It's not because I don't like him, but you've got to understand, Adrian, in my opinion, if I'm playing GM for a day, I don't bring him back to this team for any more than $4 million next year, and that's going to piss him off. But we could find a really good back in the 2nd or 3rd round, because what this draft lacks in quarterbacks, there's plenty of running backs to go around that they're pretty heavily scouted, and they look to be like they have a ton of potential, and they come at a really cheap price tag. I hate to say it, but I think the all-day era is over.
The problem I don't think is as much with Adrian Peterson himself as though I've expressed on here several times that I'm not a big fan of the player himself, but Peterson himself kind of goes hand in hand with the old dinosaur age that, like I used to say of Norv Turner. Mm-hmm. The game's kind of passed him by a bit. Teams don't line up in the I formation with a fullback anymore. That isn't the primary offense anymore. And for him to say that he's eyeing up all these moves in New York with the Giants or something like that, he's a worse fit for the Giants than he is for Minnesota.
That's my problem. I told you guys in the chat between me, you, and Kyle. They can't even win their division, and he wants to go to New York. It's outside. It's colder.
Eli's always out of the shotgun.
Always. Every play. And I don't understand his dynamic there. And that's the thing. Maybe he's just saying it because he wants teams to know he's interested. But I just get tired of the whole, I want to finish my career as a Viking, but I'm going to tweet out that the Giants are making interesting moves. Look, either say what you really mean or just don't say anything at all. If your time's over, your time's over. I won't say, man, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Like, I have respect for the guy, but
he's accomplished a lot in the league, yeah.
But it doesn't make any sense, like you said. We've tried the shotgun with him, and it wasn't successful. No. It's just not how it's made. And like you said, with the fullback, think back to the year that he almost broke the record. Who was in front of him the whole time? Jerome Felton, just pushing people out of the way. And I get it. That works, but not a lot of teams, like you said, do that now. And look at the teams that have success. Atlanta, fantastic rushing team. They do a split back system. Look at Green Bay and Dallas. Green Bay has a wide receiver at running back. Probably not going to cost as much as Adrian Peterson. And look at the line in Dallas. He's not going to go there and start. He would back up Ezekiel Elliott. And I don't know if his ego can handle that. So with all the things that you say, either lining up in the shotgun, the money, his age, his injury history, all that good stuff, I don't think he really understands, or if he probably doesn't understand it, he doesn't want to accept it. Hey, man, it's kind of like taking a CD now in a digital age. Some people like that stuff, but they're few and far between now. This is what we're doing, and it's a what have you done for me lately. So I'm just going to say Adrian Peterson's going to get a wake-up call. I don't expect him back, and I know that's not so much of a bold statement, but I think it's going to be 4 teams at most that show interest in him, and they're not going to give him the price tag nearly of what he thinks he should get.
Eric Grindall made a great point in the chat, and it's something that I totally agree with. You can't really blame a player for wanting to cash in towards the end of their career based on their achievements to that point. You can't really blame them for that one bit.
You're right, and I totally understand that, and I love what he's done, like we said, but it didn't do much for us last year, and I get it, he was injured last year, but even the season, and we can go in depth a little more too, because I said this in the chat with you guys, and I've said it on a couple of articles on Fansided. Even if somebody takes a risk, a winning team, we'll say Seattle wants to bring him in. Can he pass block? Does he block well? Does he catch out of the backfield? What about his fumbling issue? He fumbles at the worst times, and I hate saying that because I know we're just annihilating him on here, but he's got a lot of holes in his game, and I don't think he really understands how far on the back half he may very well be in. But I get it. I totally get it. I can't blame him. Although for Adrian, I think we can all say he's made a little bit of money since he's been in the league.
Yeah, I think Adrian's done all right.
He's done. I think he's got a house or 2 or 12 he'll be fine in. But hey, that's not us to us, man. I can't fault the player ever for trying to get paid. I don't see him getting paid quarterback money anymore. If this was 2012, sure. But, man, that was almost 5 years ago.
Right.
I can't believe it.
Well, next episode, we're going to be here talking more Vikings football. We're going to have some information to talk about leading up to the Combine, which should be pretty fun. That's right around the corner, guys.
The offseason will fly by if you stick with us. I promise we'll try to keep you entertained. We will have something new every week. Check out those social media questions when we post them, and just give us your thoughts, good, bad, or indifferent. We will talk about them.
Yeah, we always have a lot of fun coming here with you guys, and we enjoy when you guys join us in the chat if you can. It's something different from the other podcasts out there, and we love interacting with you guys, reading your comments from Facebook or the chat and interacting in this way. It's really brought the show to a new level, I think, and I really enjoy it. So thank you, everyone, for taking the time to chat with us and leave your comments about everything. It really does mean a lot.
I love it. I'm going to plug the hell out of these two guys, even though Kyle's not here and he abandoned us because he's terrible. Kyle West does a little bit of writing. I don't know if he's still doing it for you guys or not, but he's wrote some stuff for the Viking Age. Kyle J. West Photography. You can find it on Facebook. We can put links on Twitter and stuff like that. He does some cool stuff with his photography. Mr. Carlson here loves The Walking Dead. He does a lot of stuff for Undead Walking. That's his site. And if you aren't into that, but you do like Vikings football, you can check him out on Fansided. The Viking Age is the website. He writes a lot of articles. Every time you click, you help this guy out. So I try to do that every time I see one pop up on my phone. But I just like to put that out there to support people. You know, these guys make it a point to make a living like this. So if you guys can help them out, that'd be great. Thank you to everybody who's listening, though, and everybody in the chat. We're going to get that number to 1,000 one day because I'm going to pester every one of you until it happens.
It's creeping up. We're up to 343 right now, so
it's not bad.
Every episode we pick up a couple more, which is nice. And I think one reason why we pick up subscribers is during the off season we still go every week.
Yes. And you know what I do? I don't like to bring discredit to any other podcast, especially a Vikings podcast. I will never say anything bad about you, especially publicly. But I have listened to a couple because I like to break the norm. I rarely listen to ours because I know what we covered and I hate the sound of my own voice.
Yeah, I don't like listening to me either.
I don't like doing it, but the guys just don't sound like, I hate to say it, some of them don't sound like they want to be there or they sound really bored. And we don't want that to ever be the case here. We want it to be semi-lively. Or as they say in the military, fake it till you make it. And we'll fake it till the end because we bleed purple over here. So I just want to let you guys know, thank you for listening. And if you've already subscribed, thank you. If you haven't, but you're listening to us, subscribe on YouTube. And I'll go a step further and say, if you do like the show that much, share it with your friends. If you have Viking fans that you like, that you hang out with, maybe they'll listen to it too, and it'll just be a snowball effect.
Like me and Mr. Smith were talking about earlier in the week, we like the meat and potatoes in the front. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the show, we'll give it a little bit of dessert. We'll BS a little bit of our personal lives, maybe talk a little bit about some off-topic things for a little bit. But we know that you guys come here to talk about the Minnesota Vikings, so we get that out of the way first. We don't have a big, long jingle. We don't do advertisements at the start. As a matter of fact, I don't think, aside from the one time that we asked for a little bit of help for our podcast payments for putting them up on iTunes, I don't think that we really asked for anything.
Yeah, I think that was a one-time deal, and it was relatively a small amount of money, and we really appreciate people that helped donate to that. But
absolutely,
like Adam and I, we'll put up money for it too because we believe in this. And as long as I have an internet connection, I'll be doing this with these guys until they say I don't want to do this anymore. So
I just have a lot of fun with it, to be honest.
Yeah, I love it. I can talk about the Vikings all day.
And also, I want to close out by reminding everyone that if you are into The Walking Dead and you are going to be near the Chicago area around May 24th or so, there's Walker Stalker Con going on over there. I will be there, and I'm going to be interviewing many, many big names from the show, so I'm really excited.
That's awesome.
About going to this event, and I'm going to try to network as much as I can. And I'd love to meet some more people that are big fans of both the Minnesota Vikings and The Walking Dead, because those are the kind of people I can talk to for days on end.
I like it. If you guys are in the area, you should definitely check it out, man. Adam's really cool.
On that note, I just want to thank everyone again for coming. It really does mean a lot that you guys take time out of your lives to listen to our show, contribute on Facebook and live chat. It's so awesome.
I hate to end it on a somber note, but if you guys didn't notice, and it's not about me trust me when I tell you this, it's not. Today was probably the worst day of my military career. If you guys listen closely in prior episodes, you can hear my dog jingling in the side. I'm a canine handler, and this is my first dog ever. You guys can see we made cards for him over at Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. Degenerative myelopathy took him out today, and I had to put him down, and it's been rough. Sweetheart, I love him to death. The epitome and the definition of loyalty. Never hurt a fly, and he was always by my side everywhere. So this episode and everything up to this point, thank you, Badza. I love you to death, buddy. I miss you already, and I'm just glad he let me put him in a Vikings jersey a couple times and put a beanie on him. But that's my 2 cents for that today. If you guys can, I'll do my Bob Barker spiel, and I'm done talking this week. Military working dog.
Congratulations for you in the chat on the little one with brighter days ahead.
Thank you. Be a little Vikings fan, even though the mother bear is a Cowboys fan. Ugh.
You got some work to do, buddy.
We'll work on that. But you guys, if you can save a life, thank you for the congrats, by the way. I'm really excited. He's due in May. Go out, Google it if you can. It's in the San Antonio area at Lackland Air Force Base. Adopt a military working dog and save a veteran's life. I can't tell you the respect I have for my dog and everyone else. He deployed 5 times, and all he got paid with was a little rubber Kong. So I miss Badza, and this episode from me is dedicated to him. So thank you guys for letting me rant a little bit. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And thanks again for everyone for coming. And remember to stay classy, Minnesota.